Boom! What's up, everyone? Welcome to Simulation. I'm your host, Alan Sakyan. Really excited to be talking about all things humanity, all things unity, all things retrieving these core values of ours and bringing them forward into the future. We have Dr. Douglas Rushkoff joining us on the show.
Hey.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks
really
for having
appreciate it. I'm super excited. This book is extremely timely right now. Your voice and your messaging is extremely timely right now. And I'm excited to unpack this in a bunch of nuance. For those that don't know, Douglas's background, he's for the last 4 years been a professor at City University of New York in media theory and digital economics. He's authored 20 books, and most recently, Team Human. They're all in media, tech, culture. And also, he hosts Team Human, his podcast as well, and that link's in the bio for you guys to check out. And yeah, let's jump into this. Douglas, I love talking about things on a big history perspective to start out. We find ourselves over a long period of evolution as now these social creatures that are stewards of Earth. And now we have to figure out how to work together and prosper moving forward. So what do you think about the current state of humanity?
Well, I think we've kind of lost the plot in some ways. You know, if we want to play the big historical picture, I think right now we are misremembering evolution as some battle for survival of the fittest individual. Whereas the real story of evolution, at least the one that Darwin and evolutionary biologists seem to tell, is that of the way that species collaborate both amongst themselves and with other species in order to ensure mutual survival over time. You know, I was taught that the trees competed for sunlight and that the big trees would get higher and then crowd out the little ones that would wither in the shade. And it turns out it's the opposite. I mean, read Secret Life of Trees, a nice little book. And we find out that the big trees are sharing nutrients with the little trees through a network of mycelia in the soil, which turns out not to be dirt, but alive. And then when the leaves fall off the big trees, the little evergreens then share nutrients back with the big trees. It's like, duh, they're using diversity strategies and sharing strategies and networking with the mushrooms that are taking a service fee for the transfer of nutrients. It's like, wow, this is a big collaborative act. You know, and if human beings are the most advanced species, it's really just to the extent that we've developed the most advanced ways of collaborating and coordinating activity. So then I look at everything from language and text to money and education and technology and television and the internet, all as ways that our collaborative species has developed kind of new platforms and modalities for collaboration. But it feels like each one of these inventions also has a counter effect. Each one of these inventions also can alienate us from who we are, from our kind of essential value as people. And whether it's text or TV or radio or the internet, they lead us to see human beings kind of in terms of our utility value rather than our core, essential, sacred, dare I say it, value. You don't need God. I'm not saying we need to believe in God, but that there's something special about us. And we kind of lose track of that and then start doing technology to people. You know, we look at language to manipulate people, television to turn us into consumers, or digital technology to play us as a medium. So humans have become the medium rather than kind of the message of the digital landscape. And I'm trying to kind of reify the human and to say, no, we deserve a place in this thing too.
Yes, and the two words that I love that you use so frequently are collaboration and communication. That those are the two, and competition has had its place in evolution as well, but the two that are so human to us is this collaboration, communication, and you listed these: language, there's the transfer of value with things like money, and all of these ways that we have found ourselves now evolved over this last 100,000 plus years to see that, okay, look at, we have buildings and electricity and airplanes and now the internet and all these great things, but what are the core human values of this empathy, this eye contact, this heart-centric feeling that you're another human and that we're not going to beat each other over the heads for money. We're not going to psychometrically profile each other for our ability to sell each other things that we don't need. So why have we lost our position in human-centric values? What has been, because you also say this in your book, you say the TV was one of the first things that isolated us.
Right.
And then now we have the immediate access to these devices every single time we feel any sort of social awkwardness. So again, another isolation piece. So have these been the kind of the big driving forces?
Yeah, I mean, you can trace it to a whole lot of different things. Some people trace it to agriculture. And once you had agriculture, and you had a plot of land, and now you're kind of, disturbing or raping the earth to get stuff. You're planting seed in there to get your bounty. Some people blame when we became sedentary, when we stopped wandering around. Once you had homes and then you were kind of trying to protect your home, that's when the patriarchy was born, and you had the women and children inside and the real world outside, and you did whatever you did to your family in there and started to be more concerned about the preservation of your kin and lineage over the group cohesion. I mean, today it feels like we've forgotten that being human, that's what I call it, being human is a team sport.
Yes.
And that I mean that I mean, there's so many ways to argue it. I could argue it in a great New Age soul level, but we could argue it on a biological level too, that the human organism is not an individual human. The human organism is a group of humans. It's like you don't see a bacteria alone, right? They don't just sit there. They're in a colony, right? You don't see a club fungi. What's a mushroom? A mushroom is a club of fungus, all working together. Humans are like that. Humans are more like a termite mine or termite mound than we are just dude in place, dude in a solo apartment somewhere, by himself. And
this is that Gaia hypothesis.
Yeah,
which is super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, Gaia hypothesis goes further and says the whole planet is one being, and there's this kind of consciousness. It's really what those of us in the early hippy dippy days of the late 80s, early 90s internet. There was a psychedelic revival, there was a rave revival, there was fantasy role playings, there was fractals, there was chaos math, and there was the internet. And all these things sort of told us the same thing, that we were going to wire up the human beings would be the nervous system of Gaia, and we'd bring the planet into consciousness and all. And it was a sweet idea, and however naive it was certainly a more pro-social, pro-human vision than I'm going to make $1 billion by creating algorithms that manipulate other people into being addicted to my platform. That's a much darker vision. And the people who have that vision, and I've met a lot of them, the tech billionaires who've made the billions off this, they're really afraid of what they've done. They're the people who are the most powerless. They're the ones who really believe that humanity's about to go off a cliff. They're investing hundreds of millions of dollars in shelters and doomsday bunkers. They ask me regularly, where should I put my bunker? How do I maintain control of my security force after the apocalypse? What will I do after money? So these are the folks, oddly enough, because they see the future as something to bet on rather than something to create, because they're part of the speculative economy rather than the creative, real genuinely creative technology community, they feel at a loss. They hire scenario planners and futurists to tell them what's going to happen so they can place their bets. So reality is a roulette wheel to them. And that's a really scary place to be. So I realized and it's kind of funny. I mean, the Bible talks about it, that Pharaoh's heart got hardened after he took all the money, that these people lose their creative capacity. They lose their empathic capacity, and they're not the people to whom we should be turning for answers.
Yeah, you took another big history perspective. You brought us all the way back to agriculture. You brought us back to having our first sort of rooted homes and what that did for our social culture. And so then when we take a big history perspective and we look at all of these instances over the last even several thousand years where we became triggers towards asocial behavior,
right,
that has slowly got us to partially where we're at. Also, a big part of this is this exponential population innovation hockey stick
Right.
that we've seen, because now it's become more easy to just be like, oh, there's 4 billion people inside this circle in Asia, and then there's more there than there are outside of that, and we can just profile them based on what their likes are on these social platforms, and then we can advertise to them and we can make money. The shareholders make money, and then that sort of capitalistic extraction, rather than a figuring out how to make a cooperative gain, is something that needs to be relooked at as business plans of today, in today's future of capitalism 2.0. What does that look like for an inclusive economy that maximizes the potential of all people?
Well, I think all we have to do is look back at kind of the late Middle Ages, right before capitalism was invented, or what we think of capitalism now. And the Crusades had just ended. The men had opened up all these trade routes to the Ottomans, to the Moors, and they brought back all these weird innovations with them, like the bazaar, which we called the market, local currencies and market monies, which worked like poker chips that were invented in the morning and then they would be expired by the end of the day. So they had an economy that they built, a local city-based economy that was optimized for the velocity of transactions rather than the extraction of value. And people got wealthy. We got the middle class. They were called the burghers became the bourgeois. And all of a sudden, the former peasants of feudalism were now craftspeople and trading and doing well. And the problem with that, of course, was that as the people got wealthy, the wealthy got relatively poorer. And they got afraid. They hadn't worked, those families, the feudal lords hadn't worked in 10 centuries. They hadn't created value. What are we going to do? So they made trade illegal and business illegal. It's really what they did. That's what capitalism was. They invented the chartered monopoly, which said through law that one company would have a monopoly in shoes, one would have a monopoly in the East Indies, one would have a monopoly in cotton, and that was the king's friend. And now if you worked as a shoemaker, you had to now go work for His Majesty's Royal Shoe Company as an employee, selling your time, like labor. The only people who did that before were slaves. The second thing they did was invented central currency. All the local monies were illegal. Now you had to borrow money at interest from the central treasury. Once you're borrowing money at interest, it means the economy has to grow so that more interest can be paid to the person who lent out the money. How do you grow the economy? Colonialism. We went and we took over all these different parts of the world, but now we ran out of places to take over, but we still have that operating system. So these kids, sweet kids, 18, 19 years old, Mark Zuckerberg, whoever, they come up with a tech idea, they drop out of college to go do it before they've taken economics, before they've taken anthropology or sociology, psychology,
or developed spiritually.
Right, or develop the
prefrontal
cortex. They don't even have myelin sheaths on their prefrontal cortex yet. They're babies, they're impulsive. And they listen to these Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and investors who tell them, now you're going to pivot your company from a social company to a data mining company. And they build their technologies on top of an operating system called corporate capitalism that they don't even understand. And so they think they're being disruptive, but they're actually reactionary. They are defending the powers that be. They're defending the operating system. They're not unearthing it.
You point to this creativity from the past that's so cool, that the things like the Silk Road, how they enabled people to go and see what Indonesia could bring to Europe and what Africa could bring to to other parts of the world, and that is what the potential is for today's internet. Like you saw, it could unleash this full imaginative potential of people, and yet we haven't gotten to that iteration of it quite yet. And then also, we are speaking a bit about these people of greater wealth, let's say, and that when you look at these several thousand billionaires on the planet, there are interesting things happening, like the Giving Pledge, and then that there is some sort of an allocation of some of the funding.
That once they realize they've taken too much money out of the system, they try to kind of jam it back in there. But it's like, dude, you took too much to begin with. If you're going to give back 99% of your billions, think about what if you hadn't created a rapacious, evil company? What if you had stopped when you just had a couple of billion? You weren't allowed to because you took too much money and you had too high a valuation and you had to give 1,000x return to Sequoia Capital or whoever it was. But imagine if you had stayed true to your original vision. Facebook, Google, all of them said, we're going to be better platforms than Yahoo and everybody else because we're not going to use advertising. And then they went and did it. Oops. But there are, I mean, the economic answer, that's what I wrote about in Throwing Rocks at the Google Bus in the last book. The economic answer is distributism, or what Trevor is calling platform cooperatives. All you need is to own the means of production, then you reap the reward. So what if the Uber drivers owned Uber? Then even if they're doing R&D for their own robot replacements, at least they own the company after that. You know, or looking at how can we have people earn money, I know this is so old-fashioned, but earn money by buying or by selling goods and services rather than selling stock. And so you have a company where the chief purpose of the company is to sell something at a profit. It's like this old way, but they call it bootstrapping now because they can't even imagine what that means, as if it's artificial. But the idea is that you make a profit on what you've sold, and you take that money and you reinvest it in the company and you scale up that way, rather than getting a whole bunch of money from some investors and then really twisting the arm of municipalities and government to change laws so that you get to grow exponentially for some short time so you could sell your shares and get out of town.
We're identifying some of the interesting potentials for solving what's going on in this anti-human agenda. We're on the team human agenda. Things like you were just listing are quite exciting. And let's save some of the cool solutions because we got a lot of cool solutions. Let's stick for a little bit longer with what we see with data. Data seems to be what is the oil of today. Yeah. And the the potential for data to be doing great things, like the solutions of, oh, we see that you're watching a guitar video on YouTube, and by the way, Douglas, who's a couple blocks away from you, plays guitar. Would you like to go meet up with him in person? Eye to eye, making the algorithms can be made for human values, but in many ways they're anti-human. So let's talk a bit about the algorithms, the supercomputers being trained on these billions of human animals, and then what the business plans themselves, they're tied to the attention economy, the limitation in human attention, 120 billion hours of human attention per day on the planet. And let's synthesize that, and then we'll move on as well to the solutions.
Well, I mean, the problem with the way we're using, AI and algorithms now is, I mean, you go on Facebook and the basic business plan now is to use your past behavior as interpreted through data to put you in a statistical bucket and then do whatever they have to get you to behave true to your statistical bucket. Because they really only are able to predict with about 80% accuracy. It's kind of the Pareto principle. With 80% accuracy, if you're gonna, realize you're gay or go on a diet or get divorced or do whatever it is you're gonna do. So if they know with 80% accuracy that you're gonna go on a diet in the next 3 months, they're gonna start filling your news feed with, you're looking fat, or look what happens to the heart of someone that eats the wrong kind of food and all. And that's not just to sell the products of the particular advertiser. It's to get you to behave truer to your statistical profile. They want to get that 80% up to 85 or 90 or 95%. But what are they doing in the process? They're taking the 20% of weird human behavior, of anomalous, interesting, creative stuff, and trying to reduce it. So why at a moment when we need novel solutions to really intractable problems would we want to increase automatic human behavior? Would we want to decrease novel solutions to things? It's because it increases the accuracy of prediction. And the accuracy of prediction is not how we win this thing.
An interesting counterpoint could be potentially seeing a class for Skillshare that you were 80% interested in taking, or potentially you pursuing wanting to do something else creative and being advertised that and having a little bit of a push, a little more fire under your butt.
It could be, but on the other hand, it's still the whole energy of it is technology acting on people rather than people acting through technology. So, we're going to nudge people when they should get off the computer. We're going to nudge people when they should kiss their loved one. So, all these, the machines of loving grace, whatever, they're all going to encourage us to be better. It's the same as the kind of the humane technology movement. And they're sweet people and they mean totally well, but I feel like there's a dynamic problem with it. That it's like, let's treat humans humanely, like cage-free chickens. You know, we're going to be nice to them on the way to the slaughter. So the technology, yes, technology, you're going to have to take people's data, you're going to have to take their money and time and attention, but try to do it a little bit more humanely.
Sure.
And it's like, no. I don't want technology treating me humane. I don't want technology treating me at all. I want to be treating the technology. You know, and so it's there's almost an energy problem there. It's the wrong framing of it, where human beings are still the object rather than the subject. We are the ground rather than the figure. And that's what I'm trying to really change, to try to elicit an immune response from humans. So they kind of stand up and go, oh no, I'm me, I'm what I am. The other funny thing about data, and I do know that there's some terrific things that we could do if we developed a data commons that scientists could use to try to cure cancer and figure out different things. And it would be a brilliant thing. But the data economy, that's a bubble if ever there was one. Because the data economy is just really an extension of marketing and advertising. Marketing and advertising has never, ever made up more than 4% of GDP. Because you need 96% of stuff to sell to then do all that advertising and market research for. Yeah. So now if we have a multi-trillion-dollar industry and the whole NASDAQ stock exchange is depending on the value of data, everybody's exit strategy is I'm going to sell the data, then we're in a data bubble. The data's are the new tulips.
Yeah. Okay, well, one of the things that I think is important to point out is the opening up data silos and doing things like making data commons can potentially solve a lot of the problems that we have with preventative medicine, which is very exciting. But to have something saying like, oh, you should go and kiss your spouse today because you haven't kissed your spouse in a while, it's kind of like, I should evolve spiritually more to be able to understand that I should be a better spouse and I should work on myself more often.
Right.
And yeah, it's kind of like sincere self-work rather than like these technological nudges that we should evolve from kindergarten as humans prior to unleashing artificial general intelligence.
I mean, my wife gets these now because she's on Facebook. She'll get these birthday greetings from people, and she doesn't have her real birthday on there, but she gets them when she said her birthday was, and it's like this automatic thing, and it's kind of funny. So here are all these people that don't really know her birthday,
that's right,
and are just obviously doing this thing because Facebook told them to, and it kind of, I don't know, it kind of debases the whole thing.
That's a very dehumanizing thing, is setting a birthday on a platform that's not actually a birthday, and then seeing these people that are, because
I mean, in the old days, I remember like in old TV shows, it was always like the executive at work, like his secretary would tell him, today's your wife's birthday. And then he'd go, oh, okay, will you go out to Macy's and buy her something, pick something nice out for her, here's $40. And you look down on that guy, right? And now we use technology for the same exact purpose, It's your wife's birthday. What should I get her? Get her this on Amazon. You checked her wish list. And they put just enough noise, and then you can get a good bot to put just enough noise in it so it's not exactly what she wants, so she knows the computer didn't do it. So then maybe she will think you did it because it's a little bit off. It's close to her taste, but not quite.
Well, when you only need more than 300 likes in order for an artificial intelligence to understand you better than your wife understands you, then that's we're literally training the algorithms to understand ourselves better than even our significant others do.
Right, or to understand certain things about ourselves.
Certain things, yeah. Because in order to actually be able to look at someone in the eyes and deeply see all of the nuance of the facial expression and emotion and all that's a very human thing. This is one of those central human values. So we talked a bit about the data, and we talked a bit about the psychometrics, and the deep fakes are a whole nother crazy thing in the way they're going to geopolitically affect civilization. But we're in Team Human, we talk a lot about taking the values that we find most human-centric and embedding them into the technology of the future. And so give us some of your best takeaways from being able to embed those human values in the future.
Well, I mean, it's just, what do we want to, it's kind of almost too easy that it's laughable. So it's like, okay, now we're programming Facebook to help us see other people as adversaries because they make more money if we're polarized. Like, so what if we programmed Facebook to help us see adversaries as humans, as other people? That's kind of crazy. What if, instead of creating platform monopolies that use scorched earth tactics to take over industries, not even to make the industries better, but just to have a monopoly to leverage then into another vertical? What if we organized our new companies as platform cooperatives, where the workers who are working own the means of production? You don't need socialism. You don't have to redistribute the spoils of capitalism after the fact. You pre-distribute the means of production before the fact. I mean, you could make almost any app or platform. It sounds so primitive, but if you do it to help people accomplish something they want to accomplish, rather than to deliver some aspect of that person to some sponsor.
Yeah. Okay. This is actually really interesting. It's almost rather than thinking about it from a perspective of a shareholders first and a shareholders only mentality, there's also there's employees that help make the product or service. There's the people that are using it, and then the spoils coming, like you said, from a grassroots sort of a cooperative perspective of things like Ace Hardware, Rainbow Grocery, Wikipedia, Mozilla. There's these really good examples of organizations that have sort of a deeper ethos to them than necessarily the ones that are just exploit and extract.
Well, right. Well, they have a human value, and again, now these are called soft. They have some soft human value like knowledge or humanities or art or love or unity or respect. These are soft. There's no immediate utilitarian metric to associate with them. So as far as digital technology is concerned, they don't exist. Capitalism exists in the digital realm. You can measure it. It's numbers. What about land? What about labor? They don't really figure into digital capitalism because they can't grow exponentially. Land is fixed. Land doesn't scale. Humans don't scale. The only thing that scales is money.
Yeah, that was a very interesting point about business plans. You come with the business plan, and then it's how do you get rid of as many humans as possible in the business plan so that you can scale most effectively, because humans want health care. Right,
you don't want employees. I know, but whenever you pitch something, they're like, oh, but you need grad students to actually analyze that data? Screw that, it'll never scale. You're going to need one person for every 1,000 customers? That's not going to work. You need one person for every 1,000,000 customers, maybe. Then we can see it working.
I have an interesting thought for you. Let's explore this, because there's this idea that moonshot thinking is extremely important, that you want people to think that they can change the world in very interesting ways and help guide us more towards prosperity. On the other side of things, we don't necessarily always need to have I want to impact 7.7 billion people mentality. Sometimes impacting one person in just the communication that you have that day is extremely important with the butterfly effect and casting a positive wake on the world afterward, after that single interaction. So how do you kind of balance those things out?
Human beings don't operate at scale. You just don't. I mean, you can have some organizations that do, but when we look at the climate change problem, say, we've got a president who doesn't believe in it, doesn't care about it, whatever it is. It's not. Is the nation state the best way to enact climate change solutions, or is the city state? Mm-hmm. I mean, go back to that moment in the Renaissance I was talking about, where we got central currencies and we got the chartered monopoly and the corporation. It's also when we shifted from the city state, which is sort of an organic amalgamation of people, the termite mound of humans, to the nation state, which is a totally abstract artificial boundary that is a myth of origin and nationalism, and it's all caca, right? It's not real. So the city-state and people collaborating together in that way, actually, you can there are emergent solutions that may not be appropriate everywhere else. You know, just last night I was at Institute for the Future doing this talk, and they were saying, yeah, but how are we going to figure out a solution for this whole thing, and how are you going to get it to everybody? And it's like, well, what if the solution for climate change was actually thousands of diverse and different solutions? What if the solutions for climate change was as diverse as planetary life itself?
Yes.
So the coral reef has one solution for climate change, and the plains have another, and the city people have a different one.
Yep. And that's what needs to, in order for that to happen, we need to unleash the full creative potential of all these different cultures and people.
Right. Rather than intentionally stymie human beings' creative capacity, which is what we're doing now. Because the more creative people are, the more unpredictable they are, and the harder it is to bet on the future.
Okay, there's another pressing field that I think should be explored with what we're talking about. Okay, so we are now entering the exponential technology hockey stick, and it's permeating into every single aspect of our culture, and children are not necessarily being properly educated to be, you know, spiritual, heart-centric, unity-oriented people by parents and communities. We don't really have the necessary social fabric in order to do so yet. And so what would be some of these main tips or principles that we could endow children with?
Well, I mean, we've turned education from a celebration of human dignity into an extension of the workplace. You know, education was invented so that public education was for the coal miner. You know, so that after a day of working in the...
and this is that exponential technology that we're talking about. And this is a big aspect of the distractive economy in many aspects.
Yeah, in a way, but I don't even know if the artist who made this, if this is the nightmare or the dream. You know, that could be the utopia in some ways.
Yeah.
But education went from being a compensation for work to an extension of work. You know, it's to increase a child's utility value. It's the principals of the schools go to the CEOs to find out what skills do you want. So it becomes a way for the corporation to externalize job training rather than a way to a gift to young people so they can grow up informed and inquisitive and creative. And that's an easy flip. All we have to do is say, look, let's get the iPads out of there. Let's stop worrying about all this Common Core and whatever, and let's have kids be in a room together just a little bit. Even if we take, 15 minutes a week, we're going to let the kids just be with their teacher and each other. Because now I've been teaching, 5 years at CUNY. Every year I get more notes from students on the first day of class saying, I've been excused by my doctor from having to do in-class presentations or class participation, because they have so much social anxiety that they, I'll learn, I'm here, but don't expect me to do anything.
Whoa.
And I feel bad for them, because I understand it's a disability, and I believe the note, but it's because I would argue that the increase in this anxiety is going up because they're not getting
exposure.
Anchored.
Yeah, that's the the theory of the coddling of the American mind, is that we're slowly not building up our immune system enough to these things. Like if we did a little bit of peanut powder, a little tiny bit, and built ourselves up, we wouldn't have so many of the peanut allergies. If we did a little bit of public speaking exposure, a little bit of group work exposure, we would face our fears and get better and better, instead of just this binary close off to all of it. That's making things worse and worse.
Right. We barely talk to our neighbors, The kids don't talk with their family. I mean, the interesting thing is when you talk to families about, technology use, it's the kids who complain that the parents are on the smartphones, not the parents complaining about the kids. The kids give up on their parents eventually. If you care more about your phone than me, then I'll go look at my phone too.
And you gave this point that I want to know then, for a solution, there's multiple aspects. There's this kind of like top-down sort of restructuring of the ethical mindsets of the technologists and entrepreneurs that are many of the billionaires and whatnot, and then realizing we need to humanize, we need to somehow enable the creative potential. And then there's the bottom-up action of figuring out how to best do things like focus on what makes us most human and embed that more into the skills that we teach kids, and then grow from that end, and then they kind of meet potentially as a solution.
But even if the top-down ones don't do the top-down one, we can still do the bottom-up one.
Yeah.
You know, and the bottom-up one's easy. That's just spend some time with other people. And I'll even tell kids, you know, young people, it's like start with 10 minutes a week, where you're just with another person, and it's unbearable, I know, but get rid of all the tech, and you're not going to just be with somebody. You know, maybe have sex even with them, but you can't be shooting it at the same time. You know, no selfie. I mean, do people do that? I'm imagining it's
totally.
That's where all the porn videos come from, right? Yeah, that's right. They couldn't be producing all of it professionally, right?
Yep.
You know, it's amateur, right? Yep. But just put everything away and just play cards if you have to, you know.
Yes.
But you know, to start that and reorient yourself or reacquaint yourself, and then you have so much more resistance to the mimetic EBGBs, you know.
Yeah. Yes. So then, another good thing for bottom up is, like you said, potentially if you do have someone or something that seems a little foreign to you, maybe their ideology or their perspective or where they came from or whatever, take that first step towards that fear. That's where all of the treasure lies, on the other side of the fear.
It does. That's why I said, Tony, on the back of the book, I put it there, you know, find the others, right? Find the others. And initially, find the others means, you know, find the other people like you who are on Team Human and all that. But ultimately, it means find the others. The other, you know, if you're a nice blue state, you know, San Francisco progressive, then go find some red state Trump person and find the human being there. Find the fear that's underlying. Why do they want the wall? Why are they scared of the Mexicans? What is it that they believe? Where is that more essential fear coming from? And you'll find the human there.
That's huge. That's huge. That's it. Because the human is what binds us together, what unites us with Gaia, with the plants and the animals and the earth energy.
Well, you start with the humans, and the real others are going to be the plants and the dogs and all the species we're killing. We're killing like a couple species a day, right? I mean, I know my daughter, by the time she grows up, there's not going to be saltwater fish. You know?
I really hope we can solve some of the dilemmas in the oceans.
We could save their DNA in our common data bank, right?
In our data bank.
In our data commons.
I don't think it should take us having to discover life outside of Earth to realize we're all one tribe. It shouldn't be that hard.
Independence Day invasion. But we're at the place now where people really don't know what the difference between humans and zombies is. You know, we're stuck there. And that's some fear. It's a fear. See, I grew up before you, so I had this guy, Mr. Rogers, on TV.
We love Mr. Rogers.
And Mr. Rogers used to say, you're special just the way you are. And I like you, and all that kind of stuff. And the idea, grew up with the idea that human beings are special just the way we are, that we came in with a kind of integrity. And everything did, every tree, everything. I mean, you're going to step on some bugs now and again, you know, but everything is part of this, you know, and if you can get there.
Is what we're doing then a little bit of this spiritual remembering? Is what we're doing? We're remembering our humanity because a lot of the cultural programming can strip it away?
Yeah, and a lot of our utilitarian, a particular scientific utilitarian model doesn't see it. You know, it's funny. I see this as an extremely positive book because I'm saying we can rally together, we can do this and all that.
And you're identifying some of the malevolences as well.
Yeah. But about half the reviewers think it's a hopeless and negative book. And I think it's because they don't, when I say, oh, look, we can establish rapport, we can be together, this is a new conspiracy, it's just like, it's just going by. They don't even see that as tangible. That's just like happy words, and they don't see that as, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually talking about reifying.
Yeah.
You know, that if I say something like, you know, well, on planet Earth, human beings have the home field advantage.
Yeah.
Which we do, you know. I think that it just flies by it. All they see is what's happening to my stock, what's happening to this company, and the algorithms are doing bad things to our children. So they get kind of stuck. It's the yellow sand.
There's gotta be more to this human experiment past the utility of making money off of each other, and I think that's why it goes over certain people's heads, is because, again, they're just it's a myopic view of specifically stockholders and
what's in it for me? What's in it for me? How do I apply this to my company? How is this going to help the quarterly report?
And then on the other hand, these things that we're listing, they actually have some of these most deeply embedded human-centric principles, doing the deep eye contact, the deep love, the finding people that may not have the same values and ideas as you do, a different place of origin, and just going and asking them questions, talking to them. These ways of developing ourselves out socially and emotionally will bring Team Human together and not separate us. I wanna ask you about this. There's a big push, and I'm gonna play on the side of the push, I think.
Okay.
The push of transhumanism, okay? Because I've spoken about this several times now. The transhumanism push in many ways is very interesting. We are doing things like enabling us to live a little bit longer so we can be more creative longer. Hopefully, you know, doing things like that. That eventually maybe we can do things like become digital beings instead of biological beings, that artificial intelligence can eradicate some suffering and whatnot. It's just that we want to ethically be developed prior to this transhumanist push to this artificial general intelligence. That way we can most effectively embed these human-centric principles in these technologies of our future. Would you say that's a decent understanding?
In a way, I mean, most transhumanists just want to get away from being human. It's a Gnostic urge. They hate who they are. They hate the flesh. They hate reality. They're scared of women. They're wet inside, and it's a whole, you know. And they want to go back up, get out into that thing, you know. And there's so much about being alive that we don't yet know. That to think we're even anywhere close to uploading consciousness to a chip, or to creating a self-aware robot, or, you know, doing any, or building an AI that actually does anything, is such hubris. It's so nuts. You know, I get it. I know where it came from. The Soviets came over they went to Esalen and met with our New Age people in the 1980s. It was called the Two-Track Diplomacy Program. And the Russian cosmists were the first people to talk about building these robots and this future of human consciousness and all. And when that mixed with Silicon Valley, LSD, and the hot tubs of Esalen, we got these crazy singularity people. Bless their little hearts. Bless their little hearts. But human beings are too weird. That human beings have the ability to embrace ambiguity, to sustain not knowing. Human beings have the ability to watch a David Lynch movie, not understand a thing that happened, but still get immense pleasure.
Paradox.
Right.
Those are so...
Right. And when a human being experiences awe, it actually increases their immune system and does all this stuff. It's part of being human. It's part of being healthy. But we don't really fully understand what it is. And we don't have to understand what it is. And even if we understand that, then there'll be some other part that we don't. So my problem with uploading humans to something else is it's going to be like the CDs. They told us that CDs are going to be better than records, and now we know they're not. that CDs have a sampling rate. It turns everything into kind of a sawtooth wave. It's kind of cold. You could try to warm it up with vacuum tubes afterwards, but a record, an analog, still has something else in continuous sound that the digital doesn't. Do you want to find that out after you've uploaded yourself? That, oh, it turned, ooh, I'm not really conscious here, am I? No, oops. We don't even understand a square centimeter of soil. How are we going to understand, you know,
or a
human
square
mind?
centimeter of the actual brain tissue?
Right.
Yeah. It's or square centimeter of soil or the ocean. Or,
right.
Yeah,
Only
so many
computer
other places.
scientists say they know what consciousness is. None of the neuroscientists do.
Or spiritual, leaders, Yeah, so there's a process of maturity that needs to develop first. A maturing of our ethics and our morals and our
If
own...
our goal was actually to get out.
Well, it's not even to get out, it's just the degrees of freedom. Just making it an option is to explore that realm. Because so it's exciting to think about what it would be like to design worlds. Yes, this one is gorgeous and beautiful in every single way possible, but I kind of just like want to maybe for an hour a day just like jump into a simulated reality where I can planet hop to different areas of the galaxy.
Second Life. But better. Did you like Second Life?
No,
It was cool.
It was okay.
Or just drop acid or drop DMT and you'll go to that other place like that.
Yeah.
There's just nobody else there. There's nobody there. There's like these weird things.
Yeah, that's right. How do you actually get a socially bond? You know, will you actually feel this? You know, on your haptic suit, it feels so touching right me. When I actually place my ear on your chest and I hear your heartbeat, will I actually hear a heartbeat? Will it be the same, like you say?
And I'll tell you, stuff has happened in my life that was unexpectedly rich. I had a daughter, and when she's this little baby, like, you know, a couple months old, you put your new daughter on your chest, on your skin, and it's like, it's like, I mean, and I've had good sex and stuff in my life, but this was like cosmic or DNA resonance. I don't know what the hell that was. I'm sure it was old caveman, protect your child and some intimacy thing, but it was like this, whoa, you know, there are these life experiences that I don't think we fully know what they are. That are so, you know, your little chakras open and all the kundalini goes firing out everywhere. And, you know, and Second Life is cool. God bless. I mean, I'll go visit Jason Silva out on his, you know, Second Life Island or something. That'll be fun. You know, play the greatest video game of all time or Ready Player One. Yeah. Jumping around.
We're intellectualizing so much, and that's maybe what ends up in many ways taking us away from this humanizing, heart-centric. I love your example of your daughter. I love that example. It's like a melting. That's something ethereal. There's no real words that can describe that spiritual sensation. And, you know, even just last night for me, I actually felt like a social primate for a moment when I was, you know, leaning up against someone else's chest and hearing their heartbeat and really just bonding. Social bonding is just... There's nothing in the world like it. Right. And when we spend so much time intellectualizing about blockchain, AI, biotechnology.
I know. But the reason we do that is because along with those primal experiences, historically, there's also was like saber-toothed tigers and stuff. You know, it was scary out there, and people died of all things. Things would just jump on you. I was watching, they did the re-release of 2001, Kubrick, and there's this scene where the kind of monkey caveman people, they're sitting on this cliff at night, and you think they should be sleeping, but they're just listening because there's like some big creature just growling. And they're just like, and I was thinking about how many nights for how many hundreds of thousands of years did my ancestors do that? And that's baked in. So no wonder Elon Musk wants to get off the planet. No, the billionaires want to hide from the, you know, the zombie apocalypse of humans who are going to come for revenge after we find out what they've done to our brains. You know, of course, it's so baked in, that fear. But we're building too much to insulate ourselves from that imagined fear. The saber-toothed tigers are not there anymore. It's safe. It is safe. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I want to tell people. You are safe.
Yeah.
The Mexicans are not coming to rape you. They're not. It's really okay.
Yeah.
Exhale, girlfriend.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah. And okay, I want to ask you a couple last questions on the way out. All right. What would you say is a core driving principle of your life?
I'm just taking it one day at a time right now. I mean, it's changed. I mean, I wanted to try to originally, I don't know, save the world from itself, reduce people's level of fear of technology and each other so they could bring their best selves forward. And it's changed. Now that I'm in my 50s and I've written 20 books and made 4 TV documentaries and had the platform and all that, now it's kind of different. Now what I want to do is use what platform and legacy I have to get other voices heard. You know, that's why I'm doing a podcast. It's really get other people on. This one's on Team Human, that one's on Team Human. You know, help others. I went to teach at City College, not at Princeton. You know, the City College, and look at, you know, and engage with kids who are the first generation in their families to go to college. Sometimes first generation to be in America. It's a sanctuary for dreamers and undocumented people and whatever. And really enfranchise the disenfranchised. You know, give them the confidence. And so what gets me up in the morning is thinking that, you know, I can help restore some dignity to people's lives.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And then if you could rebuild civilization from scratch, how would you design it?
I would try to build in an awareness among people that every step they take and let's call it away from their kind of essential nature as animals, comes with some drawbacks, right? That you have to compensate. If we move from Uggs to language, or language to text, or text to radio, each one of these things is great. Don't give them up. But remember that you're going to have to be aware of what you're doing and compensate for it, you know, in order to retrieve and retain the humanity in this next realm. Mm-hmm. If you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, remember, all right, I'm barking commands at people. I'm going to have to be extra careful that they don't get insulted or afraid.
I love that big history lens on how we've evolved. Again, you're hitting it really well there.
It helps because you realize you can't go back. It's never about going back. It's about retrieving and bringing forward. You know, and that's what, you know, reviewers in the Wall Street Journal and these places, whatever, they all keep saying, I want to go back in time. I don't. I'm just saying you put your right foot forward, and then you got to bring your left foot forward too. And we put our right foot forward in this last 500 years of corporate capitalism, and it's like we're refusing to bring the left foot in front of the right now. You got to bring the other foot. Then you can put, you know, we're just trying to do a split. You know, we're just pushing that one foot forward.
Yeah, yeah. That's a very interesting way to put it. The 500-year right foot forward of capitalism helping evolve civilization, and then the spiritual left foot forward has been lagging behind in its development. Things like meditation have taken a complete back seat.
Right, and even when we're doing it now, and I know it's better than nothing, but we have apps that meditate you. You know, so and don't worry, your brain state's going to be better. Look how much more efficient you'll be, and your productivity's going to go up. It's not why you meditate.
Yeah, yeah. It's a spiritual communion with the infinite. Yeah.
Do it for its own sake.
Do it for its own sake. Yeah. Okay. Last two here. Do you spend much time thinking about simulation theory?
No.
No.
I don't think so. Okay. Maybe I do, but I don't know.
Do you think this is
a simulation?
What it is.
Oh, that? No, it's not a simulation. Don't worry about it.
Well, it's
real enough. Look how well it. I mean, it renders so quickly. The refresh rate.
At sometimes it feels like, you know, that you are.
Watch.
That you're,
I mean, look at.
That you're
just turn your head
up.
really fast. Watch.
Because look,
See?
it's a complicated world, and purposely so, to get through the adversity that civilization has to face in order to prosper. This is just one of many of these experiments going on.
It's easier to understand it as it's an interpretation of a unified quantum field.
Okay.
No.
Okay. And
collaborative.
And collaborative.
It's a collaborative creative act.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes, that's good. That's good.
But it's not some girl grad student at Berkeley made us, in a petri dish or something.
Until we literally do that in 100 years, and then and then observe
and
how
even if it
things
is, I
evolve.
don't particularly care. If they've gone through all this trouble, I've looked for the seams.
Look for the seams.
It's not there, not there.
Yeah. Okay, last question. What's the most beautiful thing in the world?
Oh, right now, you. Sorry. It is. You're here. You're the other person. The most beautiful thing in the world, yeah, I think it's nature. Nature is the counter-entropic drive. Nature is beauty. It's the quest for beauty.
Yeah. And when we can tie ourselves closer together to that nature, that's when we can tie together as Team Human on this lonely pale blue dot in the cosmos.
When we can enact it, embody it.
Yes. Yes, yes. Douglas, what a pleasure this has been.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on
Thanks
the
for
show.
having me. Thanks for what you do.
It's just scratching the surface together.
Good luck in your mission.
You too. You too. Everyone, do check out Team Human. Definitely one of the best books I've read. I love this book so much. And also, go and challenge yourself to go do things like just have really good social interactions with each other. Find the others to do this with, because this is the best way for us to spiritually, socially evolve. And as we face the exponential technology era, how are we gonna best prosper moving forward? That's the bottom up, then the top down is also really important. So talk to your leaders and get some change happening. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We greatly appreciate you. We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below about some of the things that we talked about. Really, really start pressing these conversations around more. Check out Douglas's links below in the bio. And keep supporting artists and entrepreneurs. This is so, so important. Support people like Douglas, like Simulation, so we can keep the lights on and keep growing. Support artists and entrepreneurs, everyone. Much love. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Build the future. Peace.